Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, a little bit of a smaller one on box office and budget and scale-wise. It's episode 47, where we are going to be talking Kyle Mooney's second film, Y2K. Hopefully, you've all recovered, my American friends, from Thanksgiving and just gorging yourselves. I love Thanksgiving. It is now the holiday season in my eyes. December 1st hits. Like in Ontario, we had a bunch of snow this week. It is fully snowed. I've thrown out my back shoveling twice already, but you know, I love just going outside and shoveling with my dog. It's my favorite time of the year. The Christmas holiday season is just my favorite. I'm cheery, I'm jolly, I'm festive. It's been another good week. Did my second yoga class. It was a success, and I've discovered that I think my favorite part of the hot yoga is the hot part. I like that it's just in a warm room because, you know, you're coming in from like negative 10 degrees Celsius outside. You come inside, just a nice hot room, and yeah, it was another fun one. I think yoga is so underrated. Don't let people gatekeep it from you, or everybody should do yoga. It's just so good for your body, no matter the skill level that you're doing, just stretching in general, I guess. So this is now a PSA for yoga. Please go do yoga and go and stretch your body. Just been insane weather here, but it's nice. I'm cozy in my laundry room. Went and saw Y2K last night with my girlfriend. Very excited to talk about it today. Before we get into that, though, a couple new videos on the socials for you this week. We had a Dune Prophecy episode 3 review on Monday, and then I also put out a Our Little Secret review yesterday on the TikToks, or on everything really. That's all linked below, as well as with every episode, timestamps below or chapters depending on your streaming platform or wherever you're listening/watching this. We got the news, non-spoilers, spoilers, what else I watched. If you want to avoid the spoiler section for Y2K because you're planning on seeing it, which I would recommend, absolutely do that, even if you could probably predict where it's going to go. So timestamps below as always. But before that, we have lots of news to get through. We got casting news, some new team-ups, a director's next film, and a popular web show that announced its lineup. So let's get into it. Let's get into the news. All right, well, Edge of Tomorrow fans, the first piece of news is pretty great. Doug Liman has confirmed that Tom Cruise will be involved in his supernatural thriller Deeper. So this comes from Deadline, who said Tom Cruise is actually attached to star in the film, which is a supernatural thriller that Doug Liman has in early development. So the film is in development at Warner Brothers, which would make sense because I believe Tom Cruise has signed an exclusive deal with Warner Brothers to start, right? It's the same with Timothée Chalamet, to produce, not only produce films, but star in them as well, and kind of like that old school movie contract kind of setup. So Deeper follows an astronaut who encounters a terrifying force while on a deep dive into a never before explored trench. So in development for almost a decade, the project was originally set up at MGM in April 2016, but following the studio's acquisition of a hot spec from Max Landis, originally Bradley Cooper was the star, with Cornel Mudrutsko directing. Then it was Idris Elba and Baltasar Kormakur that failed. So should the project come together long at last, it will be either our third or fourth Cruise and Liman film with Edge of Tomorrow and American Made, and currently the pair are also plotting a NASA film to be shot in outer space in collaboration with SpaceX. Most recently, Cruise entered the talks to star in an early sequel to his NASCAR 1990s film Days of Thunder for Paramount Pictures. He also has Dead Reckoning, or The Final Reckoning, coming out next year, as well as an Alejandro Inarritu film for Warner Brothers and Legendary. Awesome. Look, Tom Cruise, really weird dude outside of the movie stuff and very controversial figure, but he makes very good movies apart from The Mummy. So I love Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, as I think it was called just in the UK. I'm all for this. Actually, Edge of Tomorrow is a movie that I remember seeing in theaters, and it just left such an impression on me. It's very like sci-fi Groundhog Day, pretty much. Great movie, and anytime someone wants like a sci-fi movie or something fun to just watch, Edge of Tomorrow seems to be one that I always go for because it is just such a good rewatchable movie. I think that's my favorite part of it, is it's just so rewatchable. If you don't know, it's like an alien invasion of Earth, and he gets a parasite in him that every time he dies, he goes back to the start of when he got the parasite. I think I don't think I've watched it in maybe 2 years. I've seen it a few times, and it's just so great. For me, like an insanely underrated movie that I know it gets like tons of love online, but I don't know. It's like one of the greats of the last 10 years, I would say. I think it came out, 2014, because when I saw it in theaters, I was actually in Croatia on vacation, and I saw it with my cousins, and just super fun. And yeah, Doug Liman he's made good movies. I think he just did that heist movie with Colin Affleck, or Casey Affleck, sorry, and Matt Damon, so his brother-in-law. Just kidding. Yeah, so this is a total win for me. I actually think this sounds like a really great idea as well. The fact that Tom Cruise wants to do space movies now, that seems to be his next thing, is no longer air and ground travel. He wants to do space travel. Sounds like a great premise. But in some other news of additions being made to big productions, cinematographer Rob Hardy has been confirmed by James Gunn that he's going to be doing the cinematography for Woman of Tomorrow, the Supergirl movie. This kind of just popped up on, I don't know, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. It was kind of just spinning around for like an hour, and then James Gunn just immediately confirmed, like, oh yeah, that's true. So that's a big get. Rob Hardy has done some great movies: Annihilation, Ex Machina, and Civil War, 3 movies that look fantastic. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is going to be a very good looking movie, and I think he does sci-fi and like action very well. So I don't know, I really like the tonal choices so far that have gone on for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And you know, Creature Commandos actually is out right now. In Canada, it came out today, Friday, December 6th, but it came out in the States yesterday on HBO Max. So if you are in Canada and you want to watch Creature Commandos, Adult Swim is where you can watch it. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get Adult Swim. If you don't have cable, I'm definitely going to watch it this weekend. But this is a really great get, and I was very surprised. For, you would think maybe, I don't know, Superman, like that's the movie everyone would go for. Oh, I want to do the Superman movie. But it looks like every project at DC Studios right now is really swinging for the fences, how it appears from the outside. Like Creature Commandos, apparently there's some very big Easter eggs that are going to happen throughout the season. Superman has a lot of pressure on it to be this massive blockbuster that needs to bring people back to the theaters, and it's kind of going to be the movie of the summer of 2025. Like Warner Brothers is making a huge Barbie type marketing run, and I know everyone that's in the movie has just raved about David Corenswet, that he is a superstar and people are going to see him as Superman and be blown away. Like James Gunn said, he has had one of his craziest days of filming on Superman as well as Peacemaker. So I don't know, Rob Hardy, great work. I'm a big fan of his work on those 3 movies, and I thought Civil War was one of the best looking movies of this year in my opinion. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and IMAX, it's gonna hit different, and I hope DC Studios keeps having that very singular feel of all of the different movies or TV shows. Like Marvel, first few movies kind of all felt a little bit different tonally and maybe even looks wise, like especially you get like Thor, Kenneth Branagh making that movie with so many Dutch angles, and I don't know, it just felt very Shakespearean compared to everything else, versus like Captain America, the First Avenger, was a really fun kind of smaller scale cheesy American hero movie. Iron Man was very rock star redemption, and I don't know, it was just kind of fun at the start of the MCU that every project did feel different. There were definitely movies that felt very corporate made. That's when the MCU-itis, I would say, started. But like for my money, you know, you have the Guardians films, you have the Thor movies, you have Captain America, Iron Man. They were kind of different feeling movies when they started, and versus now everything kind of just blends together in the MCU for me. I don't know, as a big MCU fan, I'd love to see them make a little bit more of an individualistic, singular, artistic approach, which, I don't know, I've only really seen with maybe Shang-Chi. Actually, Eternals, as much as I didn't love that movie, I thought Eternals did feel very singular, creative look, even if it was a very strange movie. Even the same with Multiverse of Madness. There was a lot of Sam Raimi flair in that film that I appreciated. So yeah, I don't know, it's strange, but I'm very excited for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I'm so excited to watch Creature Commandos today, or tomorrow, or whatever, this weekend. I think I might do a video on it. I might do week-to-week videos on Creature Commandos, maybe every Saturday or something like that. That could be fun to talk about. I'm really enjoying doing the Dune Prophecy videos every week, so you know, why not? It's something cool to talk about, so why not get into it? Anya Taylor-Joy is to star in Apple series adaptation of Lucky from Reese Witherspoon and Jonathan Tropper. Anya Taylor-Joy, one of my favorite actresses. I don't know why she's just being so slept on from Furiosa this year. It's one of my favorite performances. All this week, it's been like the American Film Institute and all these, like the Gotham Awards and Independent Film Spirit Awards. There's been so many nominations for all these different award shows that kind of are the, you know, the warm-up, which we talked about in the very early episodes of this leading into the Oscars. Like, this is now award season where everyone's predictions and how the Oscars look are going to shape up. And this is one of the most recent years where I really don't think there's a front runner in a lot of categories, or especially Best Picture. I do not think there's a very clear front runner. Variety this morning predicted that Wicked is going to win Best Picture, which, look, I thought Wicked was fun, but if that wins Best Picture, we are fucked. It's interesting. Like, I think maybe the only front runners for me so far are probably Ariana Grande for supporting actress, and the technical stuff, definitely Dune Part 2, Challengers, director Luca Guadagnino with Challengers, The Substance, Caroline Farage. There's a lot of great director shouts this year. I think Denis Villeneuve needs to get a nomination. If John M. Chu wins Best Director, oh my god, this is just turning into wicked hate, which like it's so weird because I didn't hate the movie. I just hate how everyone is praising this corporate entity as life-changing, like, oh my god, there's never been a movie like this, when it's like every big budget movie is kind of like it's literally an MCU musical. It was what it was, and there's been so many other more worthy artistic films this year that were both equally entertaining and like big scale, you know, like The Substance was amazing. I don't know, it is what it is. But let's get back to Anya Taylor-Joy, who I think definitely deserves some love for Furiosa, and I think Furiosa deserves love as well. So she's going to star in and executive produce the limited series Lucky at Apple TV Plus, which I think that's the only streaming service I don't have other than Paramount Plus, but Canada, Paramount Plus is like a little less popular, I would say, because you can get a lot of the stuff on Amazon Prime in Canada. But I might get Paramount Plus because I want to watch the old Survivor seasons, which we'll talk about. So the series is based on the Marissa Stapley novel of the same name, and the book was a New York Times bestseller and selection for Reese Witherspoon's Reese's Book Club. The official logline states that Taylor-Joy stars as a young woman who left behind in the life of crime she was raised in years ago, but must now embrace her darker criminal side one final time in a desperate attempt to escape her past. That sounds good. I like Anya Taylor-Joy a lot. I don't think there's many projects she was in, maybe other than New Mutants, that I'm like, weak. Like, I thought she's funny in The Menu. I loved her in Furiosa. She's in Dune for one scene, which was wild, but great actress. I think one of the most slept on actresses. I was surprised she's not in Nosferatu. I thought maybe she would work with Eggers again. She's been in 2 of his films. Apple TV is so strange. Paramount Plus has Taylor Sheridan, the Yellowstone dude, doing like 100 different shows for them of, you know, varying quality. Apple TV, it's so, I don't know, underappreciated maybe. I think it has the most like artistic television shows, but I don't know. I know like 4 people that have Apple TV. Everyone else doesn't subscribe to it, even though it has maybe like the most praised TV shows. But everyone has Netflix, everyone has Disney Plus, pretty much everyone has Amazon Prime. Paramount Plus is a weird one in Canada, but I know in the States a lot of people have Paramount Plus. It's just streaming services are weird. In the new year, I really need to go through my streaming services at all the subscriptions I have, because I just feel like I'm subscribed to a billion different things, and it's very confusing and it's very expensive. But Apple TV Plus, I think, is one that might be worth investing in. There's just there's that show Silo. I mean, they had Ted Lasso, and that's why I had it, because I loved Ted Lasso and like After Party, that murder mystery that Lord and Miller did. Apple TV's weird, and they have another show with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy coming out on that. So 2025 might be the year for Apple. But in our next piece of news, World of Real is reporting that Francis Ford Coppola's next film is Glimpses of the Moon. So it was reported back in April that Francis Ford Coppola has already set up his next film, and it looks like it's actually going to be shooting soon. So Coppola told The Telegraph that he's ready to go on an adaptation of Edith Wharton's The Glimpses of the Moon, inspired by Leo McCarey's The Awful Truth. Both deal with married couples amicably splitting up only to find it harder to let go of each other than they initially thought. The filmmaker describes his upcoming version of Wharton's novel as having, quote, strong dance and musical elements. I've turned it into a very odd confection. It should be noted that the one and only musical Coppola has ever directed is 1981's One from the Heart. So apparently he's hoping to shoot in the UK and Europe, funded the conventional way with the help of national subsidies, because I'm all borrowed out. As you know, for Megalopolis, he literally sold a bunch of his vineyard and had to raise the $120 million himself, and it was a self-funded crazy man project. But you know what? Megalopolis kind of fucked up, kind of stupid, very goofy, one of the bad movies this year, but in the most complimentary way. One of the worst movies of the year, but in a good way. It wasn't like one of the worst movies of the year like Borderlands, where I never want to see this again. Megalopolis, I wanted to go see it the next day. The guy's a creep, the guy's a piece of shit, and I'm kind of tired of hearing of Francis Ford Coppola, but it's kind of wild that he still wants to direct stuff. Like, I think he's the same age as Ridley Scott, right? Like 87. And Ridley Scott has already announced, yeah, we're going to do Gladiator 3. Like, I have a script, I have an idea, I'm already writing. Wild how these old directors like Marty Scorsese and everybody just keeps going. And then you have guys like Quentin Tarantino that are like, oh, well, I have to stop at 10 because I don't want to keep pushing myself. It's strange. I really don't get it. I don't get the appeal of just doing 10 and then stop. And I think Quentin Tarantino, we've talked about it on the show. I mean, he is an odd guy, but just the whole 10 movies and done thing is really weird when you have directors that are 20 years older than you punching out their like 25th movie. You know? But the final piece of news, let's talk about Actors on Actors season 21. Full lineup. I have a few I want to talk about. First of all, Andrew Garfield and Ryan Reynolds. Why Ryan Reynolds? He was in Deadpool and Wolverine. You have a movie where someone was literally grieving their mother the entire time that they were making the movie, and it kind of came out at the perfect time. And then you have a guy in an MCU movie. It's so weird. Ariana Grande and Paul Mescal, I'm excited for that one. Selena Gomez and Saoirse Ronan. That should be pretty cool. I'm still yet to watch Amelia Perez or The Outruns, but those are two movies that I will no doubt be watching. Angelina Jolie and Cynthia Erivo for Maria and Wicked. I think that'll be a good one. Zendaya for Challengers and Dune Part 2. And Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl. I think that's maybe the one I'm possibly most excited for. Drew Starkey for Queer and Harris Dickinson for Baby Girl and Blitz. Kate Winslet for Lee and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. Daniel Craig for Queer and Josh O'Connor for Challengers. Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl and Mikey Madison for Honora. That's one I'm also very excited for. I think very similar movies as well. And then I think the one that everyone looked to and was like, damn, that's going to be great. Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing and Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. I think that's going to be such a fun conversation with two people that are just so, I don't know, well-spoken. They are just so beautiful in their artistic expression. And every interview I watch with those two men, they are so passionate and so well-spoken and funny and charming. And I could listen to them talk about their projects all day because it's like just anyone talking about how passionate they are about their job. And then we have Demi Moore for The Substance and Amy Adams for Night Bitch. That's going to be really fun. I'm really bummed that Night Bitch isn't getting a Canadian release till next year. Maybe not at all in theaters. That's kind of weird. And then finally, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist and Tilda Swinton for The Room Next Door. So I don't know, some weird matchups. I'm still bummed that nobody wanted to do it with Sebastian Stan because he was playing Trump in a movie. You guys all need to grow a backbone. Just depressing and strange. Honestly, I do think the one that they were going to do was Andrew Garfield and Sebastian Stan, and that's why Ryan Reynolds is included. I don't know why. I just have a sneaking suspicion that they wouldn't want to immediately go, oh, let's get the guy who played Deadpool. It made a bunch of money, and I know they've had MCU actors in the past, but it just feels like a weird matchup of such a sensitive movie that has such a deep topic versus Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, does that seem weird to you guys? I don't know. I'd love to know who passed on Sebastian Stan. Apparently it was everyone. Nobody wanted to do it with him because everyone was scared to talk about Trump. But I think that's where I'm going to leave the news for this week. Lots of casting still coming out and stuff like that. I think it's Brazil Comic-Con this weekend, so we might get more DC announcements. I know another movie has been greenlit. Lots of stuff to talk about in the next few weeks before leading up to Christmas, and we are getting into awards season, so it's going to get intense. But let's talk about Y2K. As I said, non-spoilers first, then spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about the movie, you can go straight to what else I watched. I have tons of stuff to talk about there, but let's do it. Let's get into Y2K. Y2K is a 2024 horror comedy film coming in at 1 hour and 31 minutes, currently holding a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 3.2 rating on IMDb, with the mode rating being 3 stars, so not bad. Like, for a small scale, I don't know, the budget isn't even online, but I can easily say this is under $10 million. The film is, of course, directed by Kyle Mooney, and it is written by Evan Winter and Kyle Mooney. This is Kyle Mooney's second film, I believe. He did another one, something about beavers or something, I don't know, or something bears. I haven't seen it, but after watching this, I'm so curious to go and see it. Yeah, like I said, 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 53% on Metacritic. It is distributed by A24, and it is a VVS film. The synopsis for the film: on the last night of 1999, 2 high school juniors crash a New Year's Eve party only to find themselves fighting for their lives. So it's Y2K. It's a goofy teen kind of stoner, I don't know, like coming of age. It's Y2K, and it's Kyle Mooney. It's exactly what you would expect. The movie is starring Jaden Martell as Eli, Rachel Ziegler as Laura, Julian Dennison as Danny, Daniel Zogadri as CJ, Lachlan Watson as Ash, Fred Durst as himself, Kyle Mooney as Garrett, Eduardo Franco as Farkas, Mason Gooding as Jonas, the Kid Leroy as Soccer Chris. I was very surprised he was in this. Lauren Ballone as Rayleigh, Alicia Silverstone as Robin, Tim Heidecker as Howard, Eli's dad. I was so pumped when he came up on screen. I had no clue he was in this. Maureen Sebastian as Cheryl, and Miles Robbins as Nugs. The rest are just random other people that you might recognize from stuff. But Y2K, let's talk about it. This was wild. It was fun, funny, so niche and like self-referential and just so weird and singular. Definitely the dumbest movie I've seen this year, but in the most complimentary way. I'm saying that in a very fun, nice way. This was exactly what I expected, but there were so many things that are unexpected, and I think you can only get that from Kyle Mooney. Let's start with the cast, of course. Jaden Martell as Eli by. He's good. I've been a fan of his for a few years now, from Knives Out and the It movies. I think he's a very good actor. He's great in this role too. He does exactly what he needs to do, play this like dorky high school kid that's scared to talk to this girl, scared to leave his room, only interacts with like his one friend and doesn't want to talk to anyone. And he's just a lot of fun. He has a lot of good jokes. He's usually playing the straight man in every scene where other people are just being goofy and ridiculous. So like nothing mind-blowing, but I thought he was good. Rachel Zegler as Laura, amazing. She's just great in everything I watch her in. Actually, she was on Office Hours yesterday because Kyle Mooney was on Tim Heidecker's show promoting the movie as the guest, and Rachel Zegler made a guest appearance to surprise Kyle Mooney. She was very funny, and I don't know, she gets a lot of hate online, but I really don't get why, just because she pisses off right-wing people or dudes that hate feminists, I guess. I think she's a legit movie star. West Side Story, amazing as Maria. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I thought she was so good in that. Even her Snow White movie, I'm excited to watch her, but not Gal Gadot, because I think Gal Gadot has the acting range of, I don't know, a strip of bacon or a screwdriver. But she's funny in this, you know, she's electric. She melts into the role so well of like this dorky high school girl that kind of has a crush on this guy and is having a will they won't they, and she totally is into him, but he's too much of a dork to make a move, and it's fun. And our two leads just have really great chemistry. Like, I don't know, they just seemed like such a good fit with each other, and it was a lot of fun to just watch them acting their little hearts out in this small scale movie. Same with Julian Dennison as Danny. My boy, Hunt for the Wilder People is one of my top 10 movies ever, and he's pretty good in this. He's that classic outgoing friend in the stoner movie. He's raunchy, exactly what you would expect from a pervy high school boy and what he would act like. A very odd story for him in this movie, but I thought he was good. Julian Dennison, I've been a fan of his for a long time. I remember in university first year when I didn't have tons of friends, sitting in my room watching Hunt for the Wilder People for the first time because I was just binging Taika Waititi movies, and I was blown away like, oh, this kid's hilarious. Again, he's good. I'm happy he's getting more American roles or like mainstream kind of roles. He was in Deadpool too, but you know, it's fun to see him pop up in this as well. The rest of the supporting cast, I mean, really the showstopper in this is Fred Durst as himself. He is so funny, and he actually has a big role in the movie, which I was surprised by. And then, I mean, shout out to Alicia Silverstone and Tim Heidecker. Alicia Silverstone, I was telling my girlfriend, she's also Batgirl from Batman and Robin. One of my first crushes was Alicia Silverstone, and it was just fun to see her pop up in this. Like, oh, you don't really see her in tons anymore. And same with Tim Heidecker. This is the second movie I've watched with him this week. I watched him in the movie Nutcrackers, and he plays a cop in that. And in this, he's like a dorky screwball dad. Just good stuff. And like, you know, the supporting cast, everybody's good here. Eduardo Franco, who you might know from Stranger Things. Daniel Zolgadri and Lachlan Watson have this like rap battle going on for the entire movie. Kyle Mooney is Garrett. It's pretty much every SNL Kyle Mooney character he's played, or like one of the three archetypes that he plays on SNL. Mason Gooding, who you might know from the Screen movies, very good as well. Kid Laroi, it feels like a musician playing a role in a movie. Like, he's very kind of noticeable that he feels a little less experienced than everyone else acting, but like, it's a fun cast. Like Miles Robbins, who pops up in a lot of comedies and like smaller like blockers and stuff like that. It's fun. I think they fit very well into Kyle Mooney's vision of what he wants this to be, and it's just like a good ensemble. But let's move into the story. Like I said, it's exactly what you would expect, especially if you're a Kyle Mooney fan. This is exactly what Kyle Mooney would do in a movie. Like, I haven't seen his first film, but this is basically like an after school special written by Kyle Mooney, or an SNL sketch that he maybe didn't get to do, or his YouTube channel, and they were like, what if we just made this into a movie, man? And it's very Kyle Mooney singular humor. It's exactly what you want from a Y2K apocalypse comedy as well. It feels very after school written, when someone was just kind of maybe stoned out of their mind writing it. And I mean that in the most like fun, charming way, and that the sense that I loved it every step of the way. And I think like just the core idea of comedy in Y2K, very much like This Is the End, that movie with all the celebrities playing themselves, and it's the end of the world, which half of the stars of that film are now canceled or like forgotten about by society, with Jonah Hill, who produced this movie, and James Franco. It's just like, I think what drew me to this movie was the premise, and like, oh, Rachel Zegler's in that, and Jaden Martell, who I really like, and Julian Dennison, and oh, it's Kyle Mooney making it. Like, it's just everything that you would get excited about with the movie gets delivered, which I think I just really admire. I wasn't walking out feeling undersold or like, oh wow, what a sellout or whatever. Like, I saw one letterbox that was like, oh, Kyle Mooney's now sold out and has no creative voice. This is as Kyle Mooney as it gets. I've watched him every year on SNL, and this felt like the most summarized version of every sketch with Kyle Mooney, and it's exactly what I wanted. wanted. It definitely does get better as the movie goes on. Like, the core idea is great. The premise is good, like I said, but it's not a very meaty story. There's not much going on other than it's Y2K and it's very basic layer, like, oh, what if I made a movie? And then it's just like, yep, gotta check that. But there's just like a charm to it that makes it all work for me, and it feels very low budget, independent, homemade, which I think is just what's so fun about it. And it's surrounded by that 90s, early 2000s vibes that everyone loves, and it's just such a basic time. It's like dial-up internet, AOL, chat rooms, and like the early computers and stuff like that. That's just fun. And definitely, I don't know, the first act I wasn't huge on. I think as it gets going, it gets better, like I said. But for me, what sold the movie was the third act. The third act was absolutely my favorite part of the movie, and it has like the highest laughs per minute, I guess I would say. Like, it was just every beat was hitting for me, and that every line was just killer and so funny. And ironically, it's when Fred Durst is introduced to the story that Limp Bizkit, the lead singer, is actually maybe the funniest part of the movie for me. Like, he just feels so natural in this, which was just so wild. I checked out his Instagram last night after the movie, like, oh, what's he up to these days? And it's great. And like, still sticking with the story, really, like the story beats are a little misplaced at times, or I don't know, just feel a little repetitive or overdoing it or doubling up on things that aren't necessary. Like, people die at certain parts and it feels way too early, or like, wait, why now? That's what I don't get. This isn't really a spoiler. Like, there's the Kilroy love interest as shown in the trailer, and there's the college boyfriend as well. It's just like there's two jock boyfriends and Eli's going against both of them in parts in the movie, and it's like, why, like Kyle Mooney, why two boyfriends? I don't really get that. Or two love interests. What's the thing there? Why not just have the college boyfriend, or just have Kid Leroy? It's a little weird. I was like, wait, she has another love interest? Like, she has three men fighting over her or whatever. It's like one of those weird, inexperienced screenwriters that it's like, you don't need to add another love interest to buff up the story. You can just have a more drawn out rivalry love interest in a love triangle, but instead it's a love square. It just felt weird. There's a couple times in this movie where I'm like, okay, we kind of already did this. I don't know. It's just like, it's definitely someone that's not an experienced screenwriter, I would say. But for the most part, I thought every story beat, as predictable as it was fun, and I enjoyed every step of the way. Pacing wise, the movie's 91 minutes. Like I said, it's an hour and 31 minutes, and felt like it's struggling to hit that mark at times. Like I said, this is an SNL or YouTube short, which if you haven't seen Kyle Mooney, and I think it's Mooney and Beck. Anyways, Kyle Mooney has a YouTube channel, and every sketch pretty much that they do on there, or that he did on SNL, is this movie, where it's kind of a joke that's maybe going on a little bit too long, and you're like, okay, Kyle, where's this going? Every time I watch the Kyle Mooney sketch, his endings are always weird. I don't know why. The first one that popped into my mind was when they need Kyle to play another nerd, and then he wants to play a buff guy on SNL in a sketch, so he gets ripped throughout the week leading up to the show, and then they're like, oh yeah, man, you can play the buff guy, and then at the last minute they're like, yeah, no, we need you to play this like weak geek or whatever. And it's just fun, and it has such, I remember it being such a weird ending in that sketch of like, oh, that's it? And that's exactly how a lot of the scenes in this movie feel, or we're just kind of wandering around like, all right, Kyle, where are you taking us, man? What's our mission here? And it's so singularly Kyle Mooney, this movie. But like, pacing wise, yeah, it's a 91-minute movie that honestly could have been like an hour and 5 minutes special on YouTube or something like that. It's not very deep. Like, let's talk character depth for a second. No one's extremely deep in this movie. It's very just like stereotypical after school, late 90s, early 2000s comedy characters, where it's like, oh, the nerdy girl who has a crush on this guy, but he's not willing to make the move, or our main character who won't come out of his shell and just pushes everyone away. It's very funny. Like, I don't know, it's charming. It's like, oh, I know all of these characters. It's kind of nice to be back with them, because these were the movies I would watch as a kid. Comedy wise, it's the perfect stoner comedy, just that over the top early 2000s comedy. There's not a lot of people like Kyle Mooney doing that right now. I think there's not a lot of other movies. Like, he just has such a strange sense of humor, Kyle Mooney. It's a lot like when I watch Tim Robinson or Diane Morgan, just one of those writers or actors that I watch them and I'm like, who the hell else could do this? No one. Or like John Mulaney, just like certain types of humor that there's only one person doing that in comedy right now. Like Sarah Sherman on SNL, who also rated this 5 stars on Letterboxd, just saying Kyle is the GOAT. She's one of my favorite SNL cast members. She's so funny in everything she's in. But like, their sense of humor is so singular, and it's so much fun seeing that come to life on the screen that, I don't know, it was so charming the whole time. And like, not every joke hits. You know, there was a lot of dead air in my theater. It wasn't even that packed of, yeah, it was a low screening numbers, but I hope people do go see this because it's fun having a low budget, small comedy movie, and then people complain that there's nothing original coming out when it's like, you don't go see the original movies, so they don't get made after. And, you know, not every joke's gonna hit, but there were times where I was belly laughing during this, specifically some Fred Durst moments, but no, there was some great jokes in this that I was like, only he could do that. And a lot of them came from Kyle Mooney playing this white dreadlock dude who's a stoner, works at the video store, and is just a bad influence on these kids, and it was just so funny. I don't know, I was embracing every joke and feeling a little bit nostalgic for the simpler early 2000s comedy that I feel like we don't really get a lot of anymore. I think that's what I loved so much about this movie. And actually, Cinema Joe just put out his review this morning, weirdly, right before I started recording, and he said it's so focused on referencing everything from the 90s that it actually sacrifices its storytelling for the joke. Fortunately, I love the 90s, so it worked a lot on me. I was born in 2000, and even I was charmed of, like, I guess I grew up with the technology of the 90s and the early 2000s. So I don't know, like, it definitely does sacrifice its storytelling at times just to be like, oh, Tamagotchi, or oh, this burner CD or whatever. And it has a really fun opening of just his computer screen and stuff, and it's cool, you know, like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't go as deep as it should at times, or like, okay, Kyle, focus on the story because you're just going for a cheap 90s laugh right now, or like nostalgia bait or whatever. But I don't care, it's fun. This feels like something I would have watched at my friends' houses in like 2008 on Adult Swim super late at night. It has a very old soul is what I would say, and it like toes the line of this doesn't feel necessary now. Why not make this 20 years ago? I feel like when they made this sketch, like he said to Bill Hader many times on certain sketches he wrote, why now? That's my Lorne Michael impressions. It feels very why now, but I think a lot of people are going to really embrace the nostalgic aspect. I think this is going to do numbers on streaming because I think the Rachel Ziegler draw is really there. Like, she is a superstar. I think a lot of people will watch stuff with her. Certainly that's why I think my girlfriend was excited to go see it. Hold on, let me FaceTime her and ask. Scratch that. It was not Rachel Ziegler that drew her in. It was the Y2K aspect because she likes the 2000s. And again, I think that's a lot of people are going to be drawn in by that. Like, it's fun stuff that I'm nostalgic for as a kid. Tamagotchi, old internet, old movies, video stores, like all that early stuff where we were so much less online connected and so in each other's lives. Like, just everyone updating everyone where they are all the time. Or, you know, Wicked fans. Oh, I have to take a picture inside the screen so people know I saw the movie. It's like, no, you don't. And it's nice to just go back to this time where we were so much more going over to each other's houses, calling our house phones or whatever, and like, hey, is Billy home or whatever, instead of now where it's like, oh, I'll text them and see what's happening. I have to wait by my screen to hear from them. And we were a lot more connected in person and stuff like that. This has gone on a weird tangent, but anyways, it's fun to watch the 2000s or 1999 going into the 2000s early. And like, my parents have told me about Y2K, which if you don't know what Y2K is right now, it's basically that like all the computers were going to have this worldwide virus that they couldn't go to 2000 because of the binary, like it couldn't go up past 1999 or something like that. So there was just going to be this worldwide technology blackout or something like that. It's pretty wild. I don't know. It's fun to read about. And as someone who had anxiety about the apocalypse as a child in 2012, I definitely would have been a wreck in the 90s hearing about Y2K. It was fun to see that play out. There was one moment that took me out where I was like, were people saying that in 1999 where Laura's ex-college boyfriend calls her Pookie all the time? And I was like, I don't know, that feels very 2024. And then there was another moment where in the chat room, Eli is writing LMAO. And I was like, oh, was that around in the 90s? And I looked it up. Yeah, it was. So LMAO was a very early acronym slang term online. So I was wrong. You got me, Kyle. But the Pookie seems weird. I was like, is that a 90s phrase, Pookie? All right, a few more things to talk about. Production design and quality. So great. All of the big robot, the creature things that you see in the trailer were done practically. I watched Office Hours yesterday, as I said, and Kyle Mooney was saying that all that's practical in camera. I think it was a company in New Jersey that built all the models, and it was really cool to have that on set. I don't know, it was very refreshing seeing this movie after Wicked and Gladiator, where there's just so much CGI and big budget box office stuff that kind of takes the personality away from the movie. It feels a little more big budget corporate films versus this. It felt like very doing it on the fly, doing it on our own, small budget. Everyone's fashion is really great in this. I loved the lack of iPhone face. Everyone looked like they were of this time, and there was no crazy like, oh yeah, that's a 2024 kid. It was everyone looked like they are from 1999, which I just appreciated so much, and specifically the clothing. So many times you watch a period piece and you're like, you look like you're from 2024. Like even Gladiator 2, Paul Mescal's mullet, or I don't know, people's veneers, and it's it's distracting sometimes. Sometimes you watch a TV show that's like medieval times and someone has the whitest veneer teeth. But production design, awesome. I love the sets. All the Y2K monster robots, like I said, were practical, so it really does sell the movie. Just, I don't know, maybe the movie's a little bit too niche at times. Like I said, there's jokes that are just so referential to the nostalgia of the 90s. Like actually Cinema Joe said in his review as well on Letterboxd. That was one thing during the movie, and I said to my girlfriend on the car ride home, like, I think there's going to be people our age who go for the value of like, oh, I want to see an early 2000s type movie. But then there's jokes that are so of the time, and you would only see in like a local newspaper that day, that it's like, who's going to get that? What is this very specific joke, Kyle Mooney, that you're telling? And maybe, I don't know, sometimes it does take away from the story, but it's fun to just fully embrace the 90s aspect. Movies like these, though, I think people are yearning for these types of movies. The low budget, under $10 million easily, like a Hitman movie, or this, you know, it's just these small scale, very cheaply made, small budget loving movies. These are the bread and butter of what we need in theaters, these options of movies that people can go and see. Stop just putting everything to streaming. We need more options and variety at the cinemas. We don't need every week a $300 million or $150 million CGI nostalgia adaptation of a former IP or some IP. Like, we can do these $10 million nostalgia fests instead. These are a lot of fun, and I would watch 5 of these movies every weekend. And definitely, I think it was a quieter weekend at the box office for sure. Moana was last weekend. Wicked was 2 weeks ago with Gladiator and the Glicked weekend. So, you know, it's definitely, there's other big project things that people are going to see, but it's fun to just go and see a smaller movie. And this reminded me a lot of like Cocaine Bear, or for some reason Kevin Smith movies. I don't know why. I just really, walking into it and when it started, I was like, oh, this feels a lot like a Kevin Smith movie. Maybe just like that kind of innocence and the cursing and the charm of it all. I was like, this feels very Kevin Smith. Or Cocaine Bear, which it's just a very fun cast, and the jokes are a little bit on the nose and exactly what you would expect, but walking into the movie, you're like, yeah, I got exactly what I wanted, a Cocaine Bear, and I enjoyed it. Like, it's not going to win any Oscars, but it's fun to see, and there's a lot less to chew on. Like, it's not a meaty story, but who cares? It was fun. I would rewatch it. Look, it's overall, wrapping up non-spoilers, it's not perfect, it's not mind-blowing, and this is like what the majority of movies should be. I'm a little sick of just seeing massive blockbusters packed with CGI and ugly blue screen, mediocre writing that feels like it was very corporate made. It's nice to just watch a movie that feels like one person having a fun idea, even if it's not fully there at times. I feel so bad for taking my girlfriend to this, even though she wanted to see it, but I was like, yeah, you don't know who Kyle Mooney is. He's the guy who played the white dude with dreads in this movie. Every Saturday Night Live sketch that he did, or every YouTube video, is that. It was exactly what I expected. I had a lot of fun with it. It was weird, strange, really funny though, and super niche. Would I recommend it? Totally. This was a lot of fun, and I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. Go and see it. It's actually a lot of fun. I think it's rewarding. Definitely when it comes out. If it comes out on physical media, I'm totally going to buy this and contribute to Kyle's physical media fund, because I think people are yearning for physical media. But let's get into spoilers for Y2K. All right, Y2K spoilers. So some of the story beats, like I said, are a little bit out of place and feel like a little weird. So Danny, played by Julian Dennison, dies about 30 minutes into the movie in the garage when they're escaping the house that the party's at. And on one hand, I guess it makes sense, because it's like he was the one encouraging Eli, like, oh, get out of your shell, go do fun things and stuff like that. But then on the other hand, I'm like, oh, that great dynamic of the two best friends is just gone now for the rest of the movie. Like, they do really speed run kind of the, oh, best friends decide to go to a party together, get in a fight, make up, and then they're in the shits together. You know, it's, I don't know, it felt very oddly paced, their friendship, where they have a fight at the party and his friend exposes him for drinking piss out of a Coke can that he pissed in. I don't know, it's funny. I like their friendship a lot, but it felt, again, not very meaty, and felt like there was a little bit missing. And maybe you extend, you know, Danny's life a little bit longer in the movie, but at the same time I was like, oh, it's kind of nice that like his friend died and now he needs to be courageous. And yeah, also the two boyfriends, Kid Leroy as Soccer Chris and Mason Gooding as Jonas. I don't really get why we need the jock soccer dude kissing her and like being her boyfriend at the party, and the ex-boyfriend that she's seemingly very, I don't know, seemingly liked a little bit still. And then Kid Leroy dies at his house because he's hosting the party. So Soccer Chris dies also 20 or 30 minutes into the movie when Y2K first starts. And again, it's just very weird. It's like you're kind of building up this guy as like a bully jock for a couple of scenes, and then he just dies in a microwave that kills him. And then there's also Laura's friend Riley that people are talking about, like, oh, she took ecstasy and has holes in her brain. I don't know. People are just like gossiping about, and she's kind of bullied in the movie, but she also dies very early in the movie. It's like Kyle Mooney just builds up a lot of characters early in the film that all die in the Y2K attack very early. It's just odd story choices. I don't know. It's maybe the inexperience of screenwriting a full feature. I feel like we could have had a bigger cast going into the Y2K thing, more threats to their social dynamics and like more rivalries versus the ex-boyfriend's there and he's like charming and handsome, but it never fully is like, oh my God, she might get back together with him. It's always very clear that, oh, she's going to get with Eli. Like Laura and Eli are so made for each other and they're cute together, and it's very obvious. And then the Riley thing, I feel like, I don't know, maybe there was more storyline with her that they cut out because it wasn't fully fleshed, but what in this movie is fully fleshed? Nothing really. There's not a lot in this movie that I was like, wow, that was like a full archetype other than our two main characters. So, man, I don't know. It is what it is. It's Kyle Mooney just writing a long sketch, basically. All right, maybe my favorite part of the movie, or one of my two favorite parts of the movie, Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit playing Faith by George Michael, may have been one of my most underrated movie moments of the year. Everyone in the crowd just heckling him, and it was so funny. I think that was the scene that got the most laughs in my theater, of people just ripping on him trying to sing on stage and pump everyone up. And then he starts playing Faith, and it's just really good. Like, it's just a fun, wholesome moment where they have to distract all the robots while Laura's trying to hack into the mainframe, which was really great as well. And Fred Durst, his comedy chops are insane. He stole the show for sure. I was so shocked. A lot of people won't recognize, who the hell is that? Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit? What an odd reference that, I don't know, isn't really popular anymore. I know who Limp Bizkit is, but I feel like 90% of people my age wouldn't. So it was very funny to see him show up, and then it was very weird to see how funny he is. What other spoilers can we talk about? Well, of course, Eli and Laura get together. Like, it's clear the entire movie they're going to end up together. There's going to be the big final kiss, and it does happen. It's a lot of fun. The story twists along the way and their romance. It's very obvious that it's going to happen, and you're just waiting for that. Kyle Mooney actually wrote it pretty well. They have a funny scene in the porta potty when they're sliding down the hill where they're just about to kiss, and then the porta potty empties out onto everybody that's sliding down the hill. And Kyle Mooney's character, I guess I didn't really talk about him in non-spoilers, but yeah, he's the white dude with dreads, and he works at the video store. He's just like a perma-fried stoner, but I loved that he killed his own character in the movie in such a funny, brutal way, where he like just takes a bunch of pills and has I don't know, the two sticks where you throw the stick in between. I don't know what that acrobatic sport is, but he's doing that, and then he goes, it's very Monty Python the way he dies. He like goes to run up to the robot and it just saws his arm off right away. It was very anticlimactic moment, which I like. That's like my kind of humor. Good for Kyle Mooney giving himself a big story moment in this. He deserves that joy. Sometimes it's annoying when directors stick their nose into their own film and be like, oh, I have to be in it. But I feel like, yeah, Kyle, you earned that, man. You earned it. I briefly talked about it already, but the hacker scene at the end of the film where Laura is hacking into the Y2K virus from their school computer, because like I think it was said she upgraded the school's internet or something like that. So that's why the virus's home is kind of there. The whole Y2K like threat of this is all the robots are going to use the humans as machines and like harness their brain power. I guess that's the problem of the movie, other than it's Y2K. What else can you really say? I really like that they went like fully into the hacker scene where it's just like over the top typing and all the funny lingo, and she's like, you may be good at hacking, but I'm better, and all that stuff. It just felt like this is exactly what I wanted. I like that they're not trying to do a serious hacker scene. They're like, no, we're gonna go full on cheesy, like classic nostalgia hacker movie from the early 2000s that I grew up with on like Family Channel or YTV or whatever. And Rachel Ziegler, like, she's very funny. I don't know, I haven't heard her in a comedy before because I've only seen her in West Side Story and the Hunger Games movie, but she's also very funny in this movie, and she plays that cheesy nerd girl so well in this, and she's just delivering every line in that hacker scene so well. Like, props to her because she's very versatile, and like I said earlier, she was on Office Hours yesterday and was going along with Tim and Kyle's jokes very well. Like, she was very good at improving, and it was just great to see all like the 90s animations on screen when she's hacking and all her just typing furiously. It was hilarious. And what I didn't, maybe the best part of writing of the film was this through line with the condom, where Danny is just constantly giving Eli and holding on to this condom the entire movie. And it's so funny, like, what is up with this condom? Why does he keep bringing this up? And at the end, it's when Eli needs to reach into the big mainframe, I guess, or whatever, or like the Y2K computer and plug in a USB drive that's going to erase the virus, and it keeps shocking them. And I was like, he's not going to pull out the condom, is he? Because latex or rubber or whatever, you don't get shocked with it, right? So, and he does, and she's so confused, Laura, and I thought that was just such a well-written scene that I was like, Kyle, that you genius. That's maybe the best through line of this entire movie. Some of the weirdest writing in this movie, but I thought that's actually brilliant writing and super funny. So good for him actually having some really great writing in the story. And actually the visuals of the movie itself, not just reminded me of like the early 2000s, late 90s kind of stuff, but it reminded me so much of Tim and Eric, maybe because Tim Heidecker's in this, but like he gets sucked into the conversion computer thing and gets the chip put on his brain. And the visuals of that green screen and like the hazy CGI background was like every second Tim and Eric sketch, which was so funny. So I don't know, I just loved kind of the Adult Swim nature of this movie. But I don't know, I thought the ending was really perfect to this. Again, the third act was so much fun and was my favorite part of the movie, like finding Fred Durst, the love story, the sacrifices, the 5 years flash forward where they visit his grave, Danny's grave, after graduating college, and they're all happy now. There's the big kiss. Like, it all works out in the end, and it felt very earned. I don't know, man. I was just like, maybe I'm a sucker because it's Kyle Mooney, but I actually really enjoyed the third act and thought it was the best written part of the movie when we just fully went into the Y2K big battle. And I think that's what Kyle's really good at writing. Not much else to say. I think it's a really fun movie. Overall, would I recommend it? Absolutely. I would say go watch this. It's a fun, goofy comedy that we don't really see a lot of anymore. If you loved the comedies of the early 2000s, if you love low budget movies, comedies in general, if you're like a Kevin Smith fan, SNL fan, any of these cast members, everybody really gets to shine in this. So it was totally worth it. Go see Y2K. It's a very charming 3.5 stars, but let's move into what else I watched. All right, lots to talk about. Let's start with books. I finished Green Lantern Rebirth this week. So good. I wish I had the prelude going into that where Hal Jordan dies. Like, it's just seeing a Hal Jordan being taken over and possessed was really fun, and just going on this like vengeance rampage. And I loved Guy Gardner, Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner all having to take over the mantle and trying to figure what the hell is going on here, and having to really step up for Hal Jordan. I haven't been a huge comic reader my entire life. Like, the only comics I have read are Batman and Avengers stuff, so it's fun to go into the individual DC characters, and I'm a huge Green Lantern fan now. Like, he's just so badass, and it was just really well written. It's Jeff Johns who was involved in a lot of the DCEU stuff, I believe. Next up, we're going to do the New 52 Justice League Origins. Let's move into TV shows. Survivor Pearl Islands, which is season 7 of Survivor. My girlfriend and I last weekend were thinking like we should watch some old Survivor, and we looked up top 5 Survivor seasons, and Pearl Islands was number 5. Oh my god, it's great. Like, seeing Sandra, Rupert, Johnny Fairplay, all these old players that I watched as a kid. I believe it came out in 2004. It was very much a culture shock to my girlfriend of how different old Survivor is to new Survivor. It was way more just a contest in the jungle versus now it's much more of an emotional journey experience, has way more like writing and backstory, versus then it was very much just let's watch these people on an island for 45 minutes every week. And that was it. And they even get to like go to a town before talking to the locals, and they have to buy things that will last them the 39 days. And it was just so cool to see that old school. Jeff is so much more grumpy. He really has gone soft on the new show, but it is kind of, I don't know, there's a little bit of give and take there, because I do like a lot more of the personality of Jeff now. And he still roasts the contestants sometimes, like telling Andy you're still in the game. But speaking of Andy, let's talk Survivor 47, episode 12, Operation Italy. Did we just get the best episode of Survivor in probably 5 years? Absolutely, hands down, the best episode of the new era. And I've listened to Tyson's podcast about this, and just reading online the reaction to it. It's so true that Operation Italy, Andy's plan to fake that Genevieve has an idol, force a split vote, and then vote out Caroline because he's going to flip. I don't think I can remember a plan that had so many moving parts that could go wrong, that was so meticulously thought out, communicated, and just executed so flawlessly ever in Survivor. A minority 3-2-2 split with 2 idols in the game and a block a vote. No advantages are used, and the girl that went home was apparently the one pushing, oh no, don't use your idols, don't use your advantages. And they just ate out of Andy's hand the entire episode. Crazy. Teeny, they were so pissed off at Sam the entire episode. Genevieve, I think her and Andy need to be on season 50. Andy, look, he may be a bit of a mixed bag. He's a great player to me. I think he is very emotional and very extra and over the top, but he has flipped a lot this season. He's a flipper, but he actually has great ideas that maybe sometimes he's not the first person to think of. But this week, I think proved that, oh yeah, Andy's got game. If you haven't watched Survivor 47, I would recommend it. Honestly, it's a good season to start with as well. I feel like this is if you aren't a Survivor watcher, there's no like really crazy references to past seasons. It feels very singular, and it's fun seeing people come on board for the new era as well. And I'm very excited. Next week we have the finale, episode 1 of the 2 episode finale. So that's just the penultimate episode, Jeff. Finally, for TV shows, I haven't watched Creature Commandos yet. Like I said, haven't watched What We Do in the Shadows this week. I don't think I saw it last week either, but Pop Culture Jeopardy with Colin Jost I watched on Amazon last night as I was putting laundry away, and it's so much fun. It's like a trivia game show that's way less serious than Jeopardy. I'm a huge Jeopardy fan as well. My family watches it every night along with Wheel of Fortune with dinner. Jeopardy is like one of the most fun shows for me on TV. It's fun. It's teams of 3, and there's 3 teams. Like regular Jeopardy, it's 3 contestants, but this is more like trivia team vibes, and it was just a lot of fun. It's a lot of movies, music, online slang, like really current stuff that I enjoyed, and it was fun. I knew so many answers. I'm like okay at regular Jeopardy, but this was my jam, dude. And what else am I going to watch this weekend? Well, Creature Commandos episode 1 and 2 are out. No doubt going to watch those. More Survivor, Pearl Islands. We're going to build a gingerbread house and just binge watch Survivor. Dune Prophecy episode 4, Sunday night. The video for it might come out Tuesday, but I won't promise anything. It might be Monday. I don't know. And then, yes, Survivor season finale is next Wednesday, so I'll probably catch up on What We Do in the Shadows as well. Oh, Star Wars Skeleton Crew is out this weekend. Apparently it's good. It's very much like nostalgia kids show, very just fun, simple Star Wars, so I think I'm going to check it out. Okay, let's finish off with movies. We watched the 1932 Best Picture winner, which was Grand Hotel. So it's this hotel in Berlin where a bunch of posh people are staying, and it's a bunch of different storylines kind of all intersecting, and this guy that works at the hotel, or is a manager at the hotel, I don't know, he's stealing from hotel guests or whatever, and it's a fun old school drama. Like for 1932, I think anyone would watch it. People have a fear of old movies, including myself, but having watched like the first 3 Best Picture winners that we've done of 1930, 31, and 32, because we're doing 1930 onward, I'm totally down with old movies now. I will easily watch black and white movies. I wasn't, a novice amateur to them or whatever before. I'm not scared of old movies. It's a Wonderful Life. I watch that every year at Christmas, but yeah, Grand Hotel, it's on Tubi. I'd recommend it. 3.5 stars. Then I finished the Tomorrowverse Justice League movie. So Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3, 2.5 stars. Look, I don't know what else I can even say about these movies. They're not very fun, creative, insane. It's just like kind of boring, and they just feel very basic, simply done. The animation's really ugly. I don't like the super obvious outlines and uncreative kind of look. It just looks very simplified. So I'm happy those are over. But this week, as I did a review on my socials, I'm finally diving into the bad holiday movies, like Hallmark, Netflix, straight to streaming ones. Been avoiding them for years, never been a fan of them, but this year I've decided I'm gonna start watching them. I watched Our Little Secret with Lindsay Lohan. Her and her ex-boyfriend are dating the siblings of a family, so they go to the same holiday party and are staying there at the in-laws, even though they live an hour away, but they're staying at the house. A little strange. It was really good. It was bad, but it was good. I don't know. There's so many weird storylines with like stoner brother and affairs between parents, or like she does a bunch of edibles before going to church and everyone praises it as the best church sermon that they've ever been to. It's just like wild stuff. And as I mentioned in my review on social media, the makeup in the movie is terrible. Like Kristen Chenoweth is brown. Lindsay Lohan has a weird orange glaze. It's like the Trump cosmetic team was working on the film. 2.5 stars. Really weird, but I would totally recommend it. And then finally for movies, Nutcrackers, starring Ben Stiller, a Disney Plus Hulu original. One of my friends absolutely hated it and turned it off after 20 minutes. I get that, because the first 20 minutes it's very much settling you into the story, but I loved it. So it's about this uncle that has to go take care of the orphans now of their dead parents, his sister, and it's just a very touching, I don't know, it kind of mixes the Hallmark like business guy, businesswoman having to find their roots again, and he's an uncle that's very businessy, he's a finance bro or whatever, but it was very charming. I cried like the last 30 minutes where it had me absolutely sobbing. I thought it was a really beautiful holiday movie. I gave it 3 stars and I enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't mind-blowing, but I would totally watch it again next Christmas, and I think this weekend I'm looking to watch, or the next movies I'm definitely going to watch our Dear Satan or Dear Santa, which with Jack Black, the really bad holiday movie. And then Amelia Perez I need to watch because that's probably going to be involved at the Oscars. And then I want to watch 12 Angry Men because I'm working through Variety's best movies of all time, the top 100. So yeah, lots of stuff to go through for movies in the holiday season. And we're starting to get press for A Complete Unknown and lots of other big movies that are coming out. Nosferatu's getting rave reviews. Same with The Complete Unknown. Same with Baby Girl. Lots of people really praising the holiday releases that are coming. So I'm excited for all that stuff. And I think that's going to do it for episode 47, Y2K. Kind of fun to do a smaller movie this week before we go into another big budget blockbuster film next week. Like we've done Red One, Gladiator, Wicked. Like I said in the outro last week, I was excited to just watch something small that maybe less people are going to watch, but a lot more fun to talk about, kind of these small, more teamwork movies rather than corporate, made in a boardroom movies like a Wicked or a Gladiator or a Red One. So I don't know, Y2K, what did you guys think? Get in touch with me. I'm excited to hear from you. As always, please rate and review the show on all of your streaming platforms, wherever you get your good podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast. We are an Acast produced show. Give it 5 stars, rate it down below. If you're on Spotify, they have the little comment section underneath, but they also have the 5-star rating system. You can do that. Apple Podcasts, they have the 5-star rating system. Same with Amazon, Acast, all of those. If you're on YouTube, which we've now hit 120 subscribers, which is really cool. And in the new year, starting in January, I'm going to try and do a YouTube video every month. So look forward to that. Like, comment, subscribe. What do you think of Y2K? What holiday movies are you watching? What's your favorite holiday snack? I'm curious, in people's stocking stuffers, what do you guys get? Or do you get like small cosmetic things or little like toys or whatever, or little trinkets? I always love my dad filling up our stockings with just candy and treats and like cool, I don't know, gadgets like a flashlight or a lamp or whatever it is. I love that. I don't get people that spend like hundreds just on their stocking alone. I'm cool with just treats and stuff like that. But I'd love to hear what your holiday traditions are. Get in touch with the show. You get in touch with us via email, watcherofallthings@gmail.com, or follow all the social media pages. So Instagram and Threads are at watcherofallthings, or TikTok, we're watcher.of.all.things, and then my Letterboxd account, which is actually my personal Letterboxd account, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me on there. Drop a comment on one of the reviews that, hey, I followed you through the show, and I will absolutely follow you back. Let's build our little community. Next week, as I said, episode 48, we're going back to the big budget box office movies. Kraven the Hunter is coming out. Hopefully the last ever Sony Marvel movie. I'm not very excited for it. They put out the first 8 minutes of it online this week. I don't know why. I'm not even pumped for it. I didn't even bother watching, but let's give it a chance. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is a very fun actor, so maybe it will be good. It can't be harder to beat Venom: The Last Dance or Madam Web, so it could be good. Anything could be good, guys. But as for now, I think that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you have another wonderful week. Stay warm, and I will see you in the next one.